to start the show. And I'm going to get started right after this.
Welcome, everybody. It's Friday night. Appreciate you all coming. Sorry we weren't started right away, but that's the way we run, kind of. If you ever ran next to me or walked next to me, I walk a little goofy. I walk at my own pace. I have my own length. I have my own stance. And David, my good buddy here, he's the same way. Sometimes we don't get right there to it, but hey, don't ever call us late because we're here. And don't call us ugly either.
We're on time.
David, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, buddy. Been always a hard day at work. I actually got to go back tomorrow, which it's not. I don't typically work weekends. I really try not to, but sometimes there's just a lot of work that needs to be done, and I'm the guy that can do it efficiently. So,
I completely understand that. Sometimes there is one guy best for the job, and sometimes other people can try, and it's never a bad thing to try, but Yoda says try not. Yoda says try not, do. So sometimes you shouldn't just try. It should just happen, right? So after the training's happened, after the butterflies are gone, after you understand the nuts and bolts have to come off. There's a wrench in your hand. You might need a pair of pliers. There's what you have. You're wearing your PPE. Everybody, if you know what that is, you're protective. Wear all that good stuff. So, David, got some good questions for you tonight. It's Friday night, and I really appreciate everyone for coming. But yeah, let's get into it. So tell me, David, and tell everybody else what PPE means to you.
It's personal protective equipment.
Yep.
And my job, I do a very wide variety of things. When you're deburring parts, grinding on metal, sanding on metal, anything like that, you have a dust mask, you have safety glasses on, right? It's incredibly loud in my shop, and safety glasses are required past the office door. So I always have glasses on in the shop. And the earbuds, folks, I have a few sets. This is just a couple. I'd have to go to my lunchbox to grab more. There's a story behind that, folks.
So with earplugs, right, and working in a machinery area or a loud area, with the earbuds, it does two things for you because these, older, back in the 80s, we'll say, or the 90s, right? Maybe earbuds for your radio and stuff wasn't so prevalent, but they still got away with them. They were around, the Walkman and stuff, but people would wear earplugs. So now the earbuds that you have, are those the noise canceling ones where you still can hear, but it cancels out like the echo?
The ones I have, they're noise canceling.
Yes.
And you have to try to hear whoever's talking to you. But, some of these machines, they scream at like over 140, possibly 150 decibels.
Mm-hmm.
And, you have to have the hearing protection in because you can't be damaging your hearing, right?
No, I don't think that's a good thing at all. I think it's very hard to come back from. So, okay, not to be morbid or anything like that. If you had to choose your hearing or your eyesight, what could you not live without? what would you least likely want to live without?
My hearing, because seeing what's going on, there's a lot. Your eyes are huge. Being able to
Mhm.
see, you can see your surroundings. Got to be able to see to drive. It's honestly, it's in my opinion, it would be harder to be, blind than deaf, right?
Mhm. Well, for me, I'm I'm one of those guys that like to see. Seeing to me is believing sometimes, but I know you have to have a lot of faith and you have to believe in something. And sometimes you can't see everything. But for me to have the sound taken away, you still have to believe in something. You still have to have faith. But I think being able to see what I'm going to eat sounds a lot better than hearing what I'm going to eat. So,
This is true. This is true. But while you're cooking, being able to see that it's cooked, versus hearing it, and you never know. You might be eating something a little burnt or a little raw, right?
I mean, if you say it's gator, it could be gator, but it could be rattlesnake or it could be, salamander. And I just want to be careful, like, I don't know, but hey, so here we go. Here we go. So, going back, and forth, we got a bunch of stuff happening. Sounds like, and if you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to talk about it, but sounds like you got a little bit of development going on around your property potentially. And the reason I wanted to, and we don't have to go deep into it, but the reason I bring it up is should we have rent control? Should
I
there be?
truly believe we should. We should have rent control. And I mean, property values alone have skyrocketed around here to the point where it is ridiculous. And there's a lot of folks moving here from out of state, and they come from a certain state that you happen to live in and think the house is, oh, that's cheap. I could just pay cash for that. And they overpay for it. And it's
Mhm.
happened for many years. And it's to the point where, like, the place, like an example, a place that was $150,000 in 2017, you're looking at $450,000-$500,000 right now, and it's ridiculous. It's not sustainable. How is someone supposed to pay for a property like that? Even a couple with good jobs, how are they supposed to pay for that, right? And it's ridiculous. But yeah, so I live in a dead end street. There's a big lot behind us that's empty. It was bought by a real estate developer who's in state, but lives a ways away, and he's trying to build apartments. The entire neighborhood is against it. Everybody went to a town meeting. It was quite eventful. Everyone voiced their concerns. We do not want this apartment complex behind us. We do not want this. We all live in this neighborhood because it's a quietish part of town, you know, and at this point, I don't know if anyone remembers me talking about my neighbor and their 8 kids and how they used to come raid me. Well,
Yeah.
they disappeared. They just up and moved out and didn't tell anyone. I've known those people for 14 years. And they just up and moved out, didn't tell anyone anything. They just disappeared. It was one of the strangest things. And he puts his house up on the market. And I mean, his house has issues though. Like, it actually had a fire. It's not the one that caught fire that I was out there, trying to contain before the fire department showed up. It's not that one. But it caught fire many, many years ago. And they, ripped out the bad boards, repaired it, put it back together, but they left a lot of the burnt boards in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it also did something to the foundation, which you can see a couple cracks here and there in it now.
Yeah.
But the property developer bought that house because he needs a road to the apartments. So between me and my friend, which lives on the other side of the house, they're going to put a road to these apartments. We're going to have traffic, like all day, all night. Neither of us are liking this. Neither of us.
No. I can totally understand. This is,
and I mean, but before this is local law. They actually have to get permission from us to build something there. You can't just build whatever you want on your property. Everyone around you has to approve it. So me and this dude, we're not approving anything. We're not,
Yeah.
What's going against us is part of the investment group. There happens to be a city councilman on it. So that's, not in our favor. But I will fight this tooth and nail. I will hire a lawyer. This guy is in for a fight, and I don't think he even knows about it yet, unless he's watching the stream.
No, and I mean, I don't want to pick a wound. I know you're a little passionate about it, and I would be very furious about it myself. It's kind of happened in a situation where I'm at. The landlady owns 5 houses in a row, and she wanted to tear them down and build an apartment complex. Well, the city won't let her do it. And, so I'm safe right now. I don't have to move, knock on wood, right? But, eventually that day will come. We do have Kenny in the background. I'll bring him in when we're ready. But David, what usually happens when you're a landlord after a certain point is you do exactly what you're talking about. You find out about these laws. You find out about these things that are going to help benefit, yourself, because a landlord is a property owner. And if they are turning around renting a place, this is a business. And some people have enough properties where they don't have to go and work anywhere. So, or a large property like what this guy's talking about potentially building behind you, something like that can potentially be a moneymaker for, somebody and set their family up or their future up for a long time. Now, you're the right type of person. You put the money back into your property and it, can reinvest and stuff, or it starts wearing and tearing. And then the people that move in there, they don't feel appreciated. And then they're, but that's a whole different story, right? But what I'm getting at is when you start listening to the laws and wanting to know about the community and going to the meetings and stuff, you start running for council. And we're not talking all politics here, folks, but we are making a point. You start running for a position. And a lot of these lawyers, a lot of these attorneys, a lawyer is an attorney, a lot of these judges are property owners. And it is funny that rent control isn't a true thing. It's a myth. It's a legend. It's a beautiful dream, but it's not something that is out there because it's not beneficial to these landlords who are the ones that are running the country and choosing the laws. So again, this isn't trying to be all political, but it just is weird. If you're the ones who are writing the laws about the land, then being the ones who own the land, it only makes sense, right? You're hand in hand. You're saying what's going to happen to the land and the people in America or wherever. David, what I'm getting at is in America, there's enough space throughout the United States for everybody to have their own piece of property. I don't see why that's not possible. I really just don't. But let me bring in Kenny, and when he's ready to come on, he'll start.
Kenny,
how you doing tonight,
Friday,
Kenny?
Buddy?
Pretty good. How you doing?
It's one of those nights we're trying to just break it down. David was going over some stuff that was happening with his property, and it got me thinking about property and rent control and how it's unfortunate that we have as much space that we do in America, and we have the homeless. So I wanted to get David's kind of thoughts on that, and then I'll throw it down to you.
Well, I don't know if you knew this, but I am a landlord.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot about the local laws.
Yeah.
Oh, no. No, I'm not saying that. It's all good. Because I live in this place. I bought it. It's a triplex. And I rent the other 2. I mean, it's not like I own 100 properties. I'm not cool like that,
No, but it's smart though. And that's the whole idea, right? It's like the American dream, where you can buy a piece of property, and then hopefully you can buy another piece of property. And then at that moment, if you can then, make money off of your second property, man, that's awesome. And just not everyone's fortunate to do that. And for the person who is a renter, at a certain point in time, they can look at their years of renting one place and pay for it. And it's sad, but that's the way America works, right? It's not
Yes.
free for everybody, and that's why you go to work. That's why you do things, and that's what sucks is because the position you're in, you're not in this position, you're in this position, and someone's coming in who's in this position, and he's going to start dictating the land around your area, and it's not right because why? They might have some influence on the politics that are there, and they might maybe get some permits passed that aren't being voted on. Or I mean, again, there's so much land. We shouldn't have poo streets in San Francisco.
That is so true.
What do you think,
I know
Kenny?
what you're talking about too.
I think you can fix it very easily. You can fix homelessness very easily. You can fix free healthcare for everyone. They don't pay $1 very easily. You just have to make the richest people here pay taxes. Period. Done. Businesses, Amazon. I don't think they pay any taxes. Elon Musk, these people, do they pay taxes? They don't pay taxes. And if they pay taxes, they pay as many taxes as a teacher does. That's the country we really live in. A giant casino. And we're the 13%, and they're the 87%. If you really want to think about percentages, because that's how a casino works. And the casino works like 87 to 90% of the time they win. That's why they make money. That's why they open casinos. So it's just one big rigged system. Think about how much money some people have, right? They can't even use all that. Can't even use it. They can't buy enough things with it. But they're not willing to share it with people who don't have anything either. So, So you can fix it very easily. It's not going to happen. 5 yachts is better than 1.
5 yachts is better than 1. That's true.
Always.
That's true.
Golden rule.
But yeah, it's a crazy situation what's going on here. We'll see how it all plays out, folks. I'll keep everyone updated. At this point, I don't think the approval for them to build anything has even gone through, because they have to get engineer plans submitted. Like, it takes a long time for all this to actually go down. So I'm just keeping my ears open and, seeing what. I'm basically waiting for someone to walk up with the permission papers. Hey, we want to build something right here. You okay with that? So I can say, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
It's just funny because the guy on the other side of the would-be driveway is going to do the same thing.
I think it's kind of it's an interesting thought. Like you have the railroads, they own a lot of property in America. If they want to go one way or the other, they have basically the rights to, right? Then you have
Warren Buffett. He's one of the richest people in America. Warren Buffett owns the railroads.
And it's interesting because they can really just tell somebody hey, we don't care where you're at. Come on, and just move it along. There was an interest. I'm going to bring in Darwin here, and I want to finish this. This is going to be interesting. Hey, Darwin, we're going to keep it fun, and thank you for coming. We got Kenny. I don't think you've met Kenny before, and
I think I met him the other night. Yeah.
Okay.
Appreciate you having me on, man. But you were on a roll. You were saying something.
So I'm gonna let, because I know this is something interesting for you to get into about the whole rent control and the whole about America having enough space. And if anybody else is interested, throw your thoughts in the chat and we'll try to get to them as well. So there is this conspiracy about a hole up here in Oregon, right? And I believe it was in Oregon. It could be Washington. And it was like this guy, he kept on he used it as a trash pile, right? You know, he'd throw stuff in the hole, and you never heard anything hit the ground, and years living there, you know, and then other people talking to him, and they would bring stuff up and throw it in this hole. It was like a sinkhole, right? Well, then one day his dog died, right? And then, so they put the dog in the hole. And this is not a Stephen King book story or anything like that. But then he swore he seen his dog a couple days later. But when he called to his dog didn't come to him. So again, it's not a Pet Cemetery story. But so this guy used to call into the radio, and he started telling this conspiracy guy on the radio, and it was back in the 80s, you know, calling into the radio station was a pretty cool thing. And it still is a cool thing. So this guy would call in, and he would tell him, you know, what this weird stuff that's happening on his property. Well, more and more it got out. They started talking more and more. It eventually happened. The government took his property from him. So is this a portal to another world? We don't know. There's a lot of theories. You can go and check it out. I'm not the only person who's talked about this, but for the government to just be able to come in and say, yoink, you're out of here, goodbye, that's kind of rude too, right? You know, like, you worked hard for this property, you sweated, you built this property. You know, some places people live in a holler, you know, they live on the side of a hill, they live in, you know, like right above a cave. In some places in Florida, you don't know if you're going to be living or in a sinkhole the next day, right? So
Lakeland leading sinkholes in the U.S.
That's just a fantasy to make you think that you have any control over anything, dude. You know what I mean?
I had a wonderful ethics teacher. This man was a fucking treasure, excuse my language, but he was. I literally almost fought my classmates over this man because they would make fun of him. Like, day one came and he's shaking out. I thought he was going to seize out on me. The man was like 80 plus years old, a former pastor. He owned and ran his own psychology practice. He taught psychology, philosophy, and comparative religion, and ran his own farm out in the country where they gave away everything every year because he just didn't need it. Like, he was a fucking national treasure. But he gave this to me. He said, doesn't matter what side you're on, left, right, doesn't matter. If God came down and has a hypothetical, whatever deity, be all-powerful being you believe in, aliens even, whatever, and they gave you, every person on the planet, a button, said, hey, there's a homeless man right there. Press this button, no questions asked, no bad deal. I'll help that man get up on his feet and get him back to decent living. I have faith, and I think most people do that. 95% of humanity at least would press that button. So now take out the all-powerful being hypothetical, and let's replace it with, again, the limitless supplies of earth, the power of religion, the power of communication, and all these large organizations and governments and all this. The means is there. So why doesn't it get done? We get lost in the how. And I had another philosophy teacher write a paper. He wrote that we have actually lost the ability to rationally debate with one another. And he was advocating for teaching philosophy as early as elementary school, not to learn philosophers, but to truly teach critical thinking and how to rationally debate with one another, because it just becomes a yelling match of each side screaming louder and louder. And now in the political climate that we are in, neither side could ever, even in their wildest dreams, admit they were wrong about anything, because it becomes blast material in the next campaign. No one can admit they're wrong. No one can fix anything. And we're all just, like you said, it's all fucked up. It's frustrating.
I want everybody to get to talk, but let me ask.
Sorry.
No, you're great. You're great, Levi. I talk way too much. I love to talk, and that's why I started the YouTube channel. And I got these thoughts, but you know, I could stand here in front of the computer or sit and I could talk to myself, but I want to talk to you guys. I want your thoughts as well. So this was something that I was thinking about today, and I wanted to ask everybody. And I don't know if it's a moral question or if it's like but here it is. You see a homeless man or a vagrant on the side of the street. I'm not talking about a family, you know, or somebody sleeping in their car. I'm just, you know, somebody who's, you know, asking for cash, you know, right? And maybe they've asked you for cash before. And you're working, and maybe you don't have a bunch of money. Maybe you got a bunch of money, right? Maybe your attitude's not great. Maybe your attitude is 100, but they ask you for money and you say no, right? And then you turn back, and just like maybe 2 minutes later, you see somebody else handing that same person money. And like in your mind, your thoughts, like that dude asked me for money yesterday. He's gonna ask me for money tomorrow. He'll ask me for money 3 weeks from now. Said no, and maybe I don't have the money to give him the money right now. And maybe somebody else doesn't have the money either, but they just give him money just like that, right? So is it fair? Is it right to get upset because you said no to that person and they still got it anyways? Now, let me ask David first. David, what's your thoughts on that?
Now, what's my thoughts on what I was saying? Hi, everybody in the chat. Sorry.
I appreciate you doing that as well. So when you see somebody and they ask you for change, right? Some spare change. They've asked you a couple of times, and maybe you've given them spare change before. And then just a couple of days later, or that same moment, you see them getting change again from somebody else. And maybe you give them the last bit of change that you had in your pocket. Is it right to be upset that they got their way again and it was that easy for them? I'm not saying people haven't had it hard or anything like that, but this is somebody, again, you know deep down inside, they're probably going to ask you for change tomorrow, and they're not going to remember asking you for change. So at that point, is it fair to be upset that you see another person just hand them change right away after you told them no this time?
Well, if I see him the next day and I just gave money the day before, I probably would say, sorry, I don't have anything on me. But, if I see him walk up to someone else right after I gave money and they get money, I'm not going to be mad at it because, they're just trying to do what they got to do to either survive or in some cases, maybe buy a bottle of alcohol to help them get through the night or and that's kind of a sad fact about, there's a lot of homeless folks that, just try to drink their sorrows away. And, that's, we have liquor stores here at Utah and I see it, they beg for change and they go in there, they buy a big cheap bottle of whiskey and they go to wherever they're actually going. Not sponsored, YouTube.
That's what I drink. I drink sugar water.
I even got the Crown Royal cup.
Sugar is my alcohol.
I'm trying to get better.
So I got my.
What about you, Ken? Oh my God, I got the 1800
shot glass right there, buddy.
I don't know.
I got a bottle in my freezer too.
This question, but it's the thoughts of you've told somebody no, and not even a minute later, you denied this person, and not even a minute later, or even if it's days later, you see them still get the same thing. And at a certain point, is it right to be upset that someone told someone no and they got it anyways? I'm gonna ask Kenny.
Again, it's not up. You shouldn't have to give anybody money. Those people should be taken care of we pay taxes. That's why we pay taxes. It's just that the money's not going where it's supposed to go. And it's been like that forever. So if you can get transparency on where money goes, besides tanks and missiles and submarines, then maybe we could solve some of the problems in America. Nobody pays as much taxes as we do. And you can complain about America if you want, but nobody has it better. So we have everything. We don't even need anybody's help except for being strategically near something else. I mean, really. Few people have aircraft carriers or the kind of technology it takes. Israel has more technology than like 85% of countries. So I mean, we can do whatever we want. It's just not going to happen because forever. And, George Carlin was just a comedian and you don't have to think he was a smart person. But he figured it out, right? America's a big, giant party club that you're not invited to. You work there. You serve drinks. You clean the toilets. You park the cars. But the very richest people, this is why I think football is rigged, and no one has to believe me. It's not going to change my opinion. When a lot of money is involved in something, it's totally corrupt. That's just how money works. It's been like that since money was invented, or the idea of value. It's just how it is. It's how it always be. we're not the top 1% of people. Those people all go to the same parties, the same schools. They went to the same colleges. They belong to the same country clubs. That's George Carlin's bit, right? This is a club that we're not invited to. We're bricks, we're cogs, we're wheels, we're nuts, we're bolts, we're grease. We don't get to go to the party. We have the fantasy that we have choice. Like David, he can own 20 properties, but if the government wants 15 of them and he wants to fight them, he'll lose all his money, and they'll take all his properties, because you can't do anything about anything. You are just on a ride here. You're doing the best you can. Some people have a little more money, and then they get trapped in buying things that distract them from what's really going on and what's important. This may sound weird, but like, people who, and Bryant and I have talked about it before, where, before religion made it to certain islands and things, they didn't have technology, they didn't have idea of things, they didn't have, it wasn't the same. It's just, if you see what I'm getting at, it's like the poor are very easy to control. Do you know what I mean? So it's just better that you don't have anything. And they're just coming out with this research now that college, for example, is really just a way to get 18-year-olds into massive amounts of debt. I never liked college, but I went. I'm older, so I went to college because you had to go to college. You had to get a degree. You had to get a good job, and you had to have security. So I did that. Finally paid my loans off just a couple months ago, and I'm almost 45 years old. I'm 45 years old. I've been in debt that whole time. If you want a car, you're in debt. If you want a card, you're in debt. Everyone is in debt. If you're not in debt, you don't have value to rich people or companies or stores or the stock market.
Fun fact about that: you can't work for TSA if you have too bad of a credit score, because you are considered a liability if you're in debt. You want to pay off that debt, so you're more willing to accept a bribe. That's why TSA checks your credit score.
Loans, credit score is like your caste system in America, right? It's like that's like how you can get things you want. That's your barcode on your arm. If you ever saw that movie In Time, you can go through one door, but you can't get through that door because that door is a little fancier than you. You don't belong behind that door. So like, it's all, but behind the scenes, it's happening already. Movies about the future will always show you stuff like that. And people think it's funny, but it's funny because they're distracted that that's what's going on right now. So.
Yeah. I got to give it to Levi real quick, but I wanted to just throw this in just so you guys know too. I'm not the richest person in the world. I'm not afraid to say it. I come from a very humble background, a very modest family, a down to earth family, right? A family that has a lot of, my mom has brother and, some step halves, and then my dad, he's got 5 brothers, 2 sisters, big family, right? Almost a Brady Bunch. But with that, my dad, my mom and dad both had families that were divorced. So for them to be together and stay together, it was a very, very big moment for, not big, but that's something that they're really committed to doing, is keeping a family together, right? Because they've seen what happens when divorces happen. So, hey, I love my grandmother, but she's one of those ladies that needs to be married, and that gives her the security, right? And that makes her feel comfort. So she's very powerful. She do everything on her own. First female bus driver in the state of Indiana. I mean, the lady's she can do all kinds of stuff, right? But what I'm getting at is my dad, living out here in California on his own, he didn't have that background, that stable foundation. Sometimes when you have a family and both parents are working, maybe you're making a little bit more money. Maybe your brother and sister aren't wearing hand-me-downs so much. Maybe that kind of stuff is happening because there's a little bit of extra cash that's coming into the house. So with my dad being the only guy working in the house, my mom and dad were a little leery about like the credit cards and stuff like that in the 90s and stuff. So my mom and dad went a very long time without having credit. And just like what you guys are saying, without having credit is worse than having bad credit. Because at least if you have bad credit, they say, okay, you have some history. When you have no history at all,
they know they can take advantage of you at that point, basically. At least if you have bad credit, the moment your credit even ticks up 20 points, you start getting like offers from credit cards. And it's because it's predatory. It's 100% predatory. That's what it is.
Same question for you, Levi. You can expand it and go any way you want it's a pretty cool
Yeah.
night, I think. And if
Rant
anybody in
away,
the
Levi.
I'm
they
not
got any
mad
thoughts
about it
on
if someone comes up, asks me money every day. In essence, if you really look at it, how is that any different than cold calling for tons of different jobs in a certain sense? You are literally calling people, asking them to spend money on more likely products that they don't want. So honestly, it's a certain level of effort, but of course, in that aspect, he can't be mad if I say no. And honestly, more much just my heart breaks because, like David was saying, I gave a guy money one time. He gave me a sob story about his little girl needed, he couldn't afford like the antibiotics, from. I gave money. I was like, I got a few extra bucks. Literally $3, $5 to me right now means nothing at that point in my life to me. Sad part was he started going the way I was going. I watched him ditch into an area that's known as a drug den right after. So, and that's the thing. I've had some crazy. I had one time in Ohio, guys, after a party night with my roommates. My roommates come, they wake me up. He's like, bro, somebody's in your truck. And I'm laughing. I'm like, oh, that's a good one. He's like, nah, dude, like someone's going through your truck right now. And I had one of them old like Chevy work trucks, manual windows, got to manually lock the door. And my roommate had forgotten to lock my passenger door. And one of the guys I had given money to previously the other day at McDonald's was going through my car. It was one of those ones just heartbreaking moment. I'm like, he marked me basically. I gave him money and I became a mark.
At least a bunch of homeless people didn't have an orgy in your car like they do.
What show is that on?
That was in
Billy?
No, it was in the movie, not the Step Brothers.
Horrible Bosses?
They were cops.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot the name.
Yeah. So if anybody's like a little bit taken off, this isn't just this isn't a football show. This is more of a late night show. This is more of a talk show for this segment of the program. For these episodes, I'll redisclose them on YouTube differently, but it's still going to be under this title, and it is a football show. So we do talk about sports. But what I would like to let everybody understand is why I'm taking it to this direction, and I'm asking everybody their thoughts on these kind of topics is I want to help people, and I want to do what I can do in my small power to help people. So, sometimes, again, making awareness, talking about certain things, that's great, right? So we're not going to be able to change, the America and, rent control and stuff like that. But sometimes, like what Levi was just saying, sometimes kids need help. And that's what we're getting at. So I reached out to St. Jude's. I'm waiting for some information to hear back. And we're trying to potentially maybe launch a fundraiser. And if it doesn't work out that way, then we're going to try to go a different route, maybe do a GoFundMe account and do the same thing. And then just, donate the money that way. It might be a different way about doing it. But I like the idea of helping other people because I've been in a situation where I've needed help too. And I know, just probably everybody in their life can sit back and say it. So what I would like to say is if you do see somebody out there and they're handing somebody change, or maybe you don't have enough change, don't feel bad that you can't give change. Don't feel like you have to give change. Just when you have that opportunity to pay it forward or do something extra, then that's when you can do it. Not everybody can do it. I've noticed, like when I was working at the tire shop, the people that tip are usually the families that have like 1 million kids, and they're the ones that probably can't afford to tip. They're the ones that tip a little bit better at the restaurant too, not the people that necessarily have all of it. And it's not for everybody either. There's some people that are rich and what better off that do what they can do, and it's everybody's their own person, individuals, personalities, and everybody's been taught a different thing from somebody else. So what I just want to do is kind of just continue to promote, the good vibes and try to do something better than just for myself, right? And I'd like to also show my daughters and my children the same thing. If we, again, help each other, not, take care of each other, because, like we said, we've already got that system in place where there's programs out there that can help each other. But these things right here, it doesn't take too much to donate to like something like St. Jude's or a different fundraiser. And that's what we're going to try to promote and maybe get a bunch of us to help do it. So if you guys keep your eyes out for the notifications for that. But let's change topics for a second. And I wanted to get everybody's thoughts on electric, hydrogen, and gasoline. And I want to start with David. The reason I'm asking this is because right now we have really neat technology out there where there's electricity, and electricity was an idea back with Nikola Tesla, and maybe am I right, in the 1800s, where there was a car potentially made, and now we're full
Going down
circle.
my
Now
rabbit
Tesla
hole.
is a new car, right? So now we're in California. We are potentially moving away from gasoline cars. They want everybody to start going to either a hydrogen or electric car. So the future is moving, right? But there's also a really cool trick with gasoline too. And it doesn't take as much gasoline to actually run a vehicle if there's a kit to it. So I'm curious, are you in favor of like the hydrogen technology? Are you in favor of the electric, or are you strictly with the gas? Because I know if they reverse the way the gas is going into the vehicle, they can make a car run off of fumes and go further than the way we are regulating the car. But it's all about that consumption. So the reason our cars are running the way they are is because they want to be thirsty, so we can continue to go and feed them at the pumps. So, what's your thoughts on electric cars, hydrogen, and gas? And what do you think is the best way forward?
Well, at this point, I would say electric, but disposal of the battery is incredibly bad for the environment. Just about it's almost as equal as to driving a gas car 250,000 miles. A lot of people don't know that. They think electric cars are great. Oh, these things, we're going to save the environment. Okay, what happens to the battery, folks? The battery. When we have to change it, they have to dispose of it somehow. And I'm honestly looking at hydrogen. Like, if it doesn't put out emissions and it runs a vehicle, let's do it. I was actually looking at, so you remember like a few weekends ago, I had to go get an oil change and, in the Jeep, and I go to a Jeep dealer because it has like a 5-year service plan on it. And I was looking at a hybrid Wrangler, like the brand new model hybrid Wrangler. And I'm in there looking at it like, I'm talking to the salesman about it. I'm like, all right, so this thing's a hybrid. Don't you guys have an all electric plug-in? He's like, yes, we do. We actually don't have one of those in stock right now because they didn't have enough batteries to make them. Is that nuts? But he finished showing me the hybrid. It had a little 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder in the front. Under the back seat, where there's normally storage space, which in my Jeep there is, that's where the battery's at. And it's kind of crazy how it runs, Bryant. So you drive around town, it's on electric. If the electricity starts running low, it'll kick the engine on, but then it has a generator hooked to the engine that will charge the battery as you're driving. So it's like if you hop on the freeway and you're going freeway speeds, it's running on the gas motor. It's not running on the battery. So, if you're driving a long distance to go to work every day, when you get off the freeway, you're going to be all electric. You're probably never going to have to charge your Jeep. And those things get like 50 miles a gallon. So this is a direction I see a lot of automakers going. But there's a ban on gas engines coming up, right? And that's coming up in all countries, and it's been pushed back a bit. And, when that happens, that's when things get interesting. I'm honestly looking at hydrogen over the electric batteries. And that's when, disposal of the electric battery really needs to come to light,
I love it. All right. So Kenny, what do you think? Are you a hydrogen guy? Are you a electric guy? Are you a gasoline guy? And just your thoughts. What do you think? What do you think?
I am a Flintstones guy.
Ooh, I like it.
Right.
With the feet.
I'm gonna use my giant feet and just walk. I'll just walk there, and then I'll paraglide on a pterodactyl to work, things like that. We were fine in prehistoric days. I don't know what happened to us. No, but you know what the problem is? If we're being serious, in Japan, I mean, they have plenty of trains and they have plenty of buses, and they're comfortable and they're clean and they're cheap. I know we have that stuff here, but our Americans are not trained to use public transportation. They push the car and highways, and everyone has their own car, and everyone wants to burn gasoline.
Do you
or
know the
whatever.
story about the highways too? Why we have so many highways?
Well, I mean, originally the highways were to, bridge far away places, but really, I mean, they were really just made for rich people to get places in cars quicker.
National defense. Tanks can drive on interstates. Planes
Yeah.
can land on interstates. It's what the Germans did with. We copied them.
Which is silly, because who's going to attack us here? You can't reach. No one had an aircraft carrier. Ridiculous. Again, and that's what America does in a lot, is that they wait for the last minute and they'll choose the worst things to solve a problem, the cheapest, worst solutions, until they all fail before they use the one that they know is going to work, but it's more expensive. So it's like anything and everything. You're trying to shave dollars.
Reactive.
And so the only people who suffer are people, there's bridges in Rome that are not falling apart, right? They're falling apart here, though, because they weren't made well.
What is it, like 70% of bridges couldn't pass their inspection, basically?
In America.
Yep.
In America.
All bridges have a service life, and there's a lot of bridges that are past that service life.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Again, we're not getting too political, folks, but if we make awareness and somebody hears, hey, that bridge might need to be inspected, and they're driving over it and they're thinking, I wonder when the last time this bridge was inspected, and they're in the inspector who might need to think about doing, the inspection, right? So maybe they'll pull over during this podcast and cheers.
The inspector's playing Angry Birds, and he's checking his Twitter or X, whatever.
See, Kenny, you would have loved one thing we had in Colorado. We actually had a good amount of what's the word I'm looking for? Transparency with our tax money. Case in point, we gave money to the Colorado Springs Police Department. We put a tax on medical marijuana, and we allocated the money to hire and train new recruits in the area and incentivize new people to come to our Colorado Springs. So it came up for a renewal on our ballot. However, dude, I'm telling you, in Colorado, I'd never seen voting like this before. I was given paid like 30 pages of information on every single thing we were voting for, studies from both sides. And so someone did a study. Hey, where'd that money go? But of course, they gave Colorado Springs Police Department absolute control over whether it was released or not. They did the entire study. They chose, of course, not to release it because it probably wasn't going to look good by an independent investigator. Guess what? We did not renew the tax. That's how it's supposed to be done. But as someone that grew up in the South, that shit don't happen here.
And that stays quiet. The way you see things stay
they
quiet
like to keep
on a
you
TV show. Okay, greasing palms, kissing ass, doing favors for other politicians and other people who are like
the pictures. I used to wait on Senator Fry's private fundraising parties in South Carolina. I'm telling you, I've seen the inner workings of how this stuff goes. And like you're saying, it's a lot of palm greasing, it's a lot of back scratching. It's
for sure.
That's why the money, they want to keep you, the average guy, out of local politics. That's the derivative of a lot of different places, no matter what side it is. I'm telling you that now. So
that's why there's still money in politics.
Get involved locally.
Well, to be fun and let everybody
know
what politics stands for. If you haven't ever heard of it, this is a good. This is how you break it down. Politics. Poly means many. Mm-hmm. Ticks are blood-sucking insects, so you have blood-sucking insects, okay? But politics are great because it allows people to come together and decide on different ways of how the organization, the company, the business, the city, the town, the country, the state, whatever.
Without all of it, we would never be where we're at now. Basically.
That's right. And it's because we live in America that we are allowed to have these dealings outside and with other countries and private dealings. And that's why we are the way we are. And I got to ask you guys, before we all get out of here again, this has been a fun conversation. We like to have, a couple people Yeah, we're going to be getting over to David's show here in a little bit.
Oh, okay,
and,
okay.
We're gonna continue the convo.
Yeah,
Well, can I say one thing real quick?
most
We
definitely.
talking about the gas, the fuel. I don't know if I've ever really told you all this, but in talking about helping people, that's the reason I started streaming. I did not start my stream as a football channel. If you go back to my first videos, my first video is called SHME, Solar Harvesting Mitochondrial Engine. It's an idea I came up with 10 years ago in college when I approached my professors. They told me my questions were above their pay grade. I've tried for years. Shelley Mentier of the Harvard Wise Institute, as well as a stock tradable company called Protero, have shown that the two sides of my biofuel. So every few years, I look back on this. I'm telling you, dude, I gave my final speech in college about how and why I wanted to build a goddamn 3,400-mile river through the heart of Africa, undercutting the Sahara to prevent the erosion that continues every single year at like a 600 hectare pace, and reverse the process of all the foresting and logging that we did that continues the erosion. And again, I literally talk about how I want to use the natural resources as a game of highest better to help people, because I'm not naive enough to think that just because people want to help people, no matter how great, America ain't gonna help someone unless oil's there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And
I'm
that's
not so naive.
That's the thing with the electric car, right? The only reason the electric car didn't take off in the 70s is because oil companies killed that crap. They X'd that out real fast.
I have an idea. Elon Musk said he'd pay $1 billion if someone could pull carbon from the atmosphere in a usable form. I have an idea based off of failed Gates Foundation experiment that they did out in Arizona, where I don't know, man. It's frustrating. But all right, let's get out of here, Brian. Sorry.
Well, no, I wish we could go longer, but we are going to go over to David's show. This is the early late show, the Friday night show, and again, it's kind of like a talk show. We like to get into talk a little bit, have some good vibes and stuff, get into some topics that aren't too serious, but can actually take you down a different path. Like with everything going on, we are getting closer to having AI, and one day, hopefully, we won't ever have to drive. Our robot can drive us everywhere, and or carry us, and we won't have to worry about it. But sooner or later, we'll have to figure out how to power that robot, and it's going to be solar, or it's going to be hydrogen or electric. There was something really cool today, seeing that if it's actually possible that potentially you can electrify mercury, and then you can control its movement. And if you were able to do that, then potentially you could fly like a UFO. So, folks, we like to talk, and we like to get a little bit out of there and maybe out of the world a little bit. But before we go, it's these great thoughts that we've had, and it's because of these other countries and thoughts and everything that we get creations, and the world comes together, right? So, final thoughts, David. Who's your favorite X-Men? Because the 1997 X-Men is back.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I gotta say Wolverine. I gotta say,
all right.
He's tough. He's tough. He can take a beating, right?
That's right. I love it. So, Levi, what's your favorite X-Men?
Dude, it's been a while since I did X-Men. I'm trying to remember the exact name. I'm sorry if I mess this up. Is it
If you
Storm?
describe,
Does Deadpool count?
Is it No, her name's not Storm.
Rogue?
No, not Rogue. Y'all go mess with me again.
Jubilee?
The girl that controls lightning and the weather.
Yeah, Storm. You had it.
Yeah, okay.
Storm.
Okay. Storm is my Storm. Oh, I do like Gambit. Gambit's also another good one.
Well, hold on. Does Deadpool count? I'm just wondering.
No, he's
not my choice, but
he's X-Force.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah, I'm sticking with Storm.
Technically, yeah, he's X-Force. That's really cool. So, Kenny, who's your favorite X-Men?
Cable.
Oh, wow. All right. So we might have to go into a little more detail into this if you're not a.
David reminded me, because I was going to say Gambit, but then Levi said it, and I wanted to do like a world premiere on my guy, right? So I remembered Cable because he brought up Deadpool, but if not, I would have just said Gambit because he's awesome too.
He really was.
I wear glasses. I was a big Cyclops fan. I gotta tell you, still am a big Cyclops fan. The 1997, that's what they call it, the X-Men television show. I believe the Batman animated series and the 1997 X-Men TV show and the Spider-Man TV show is probably the three best comic book cartoons ever made. And it's my humble opinion. But yeah, Cyclops was mine. Some people say he's the best villain ever. If you look into his future, he turns into a villain. So.
He's super duper powerful. He's like a cosmic being. He's that strong.
Oh boy, but we'll go into more detail with that next time, folks. And yeah, thank you all for listening. Please keep your notifications on. Thank you for subscribing to the channel, watching, telling a friend, and hopefully we'll have bigger and bigger news coming out in the future with some type of fundraising idea to help again all of our friends and people that maybe we don't know just yet, or maybe people that we'll never meet that just might need a little help. So appreciate you guys all. Go check out David's show in a little bit. That's where we'll be at. The David McKnight.
Remember, folks, there's an intermission. So at 8:20 PST is when it starts. So we all get an intermission, you know.
We'll see you guys over there. And thank you all for coming.